"We are finally closing your pathetic little business," my brother Marcus announced in the bankruptcy courtroom, adjusting his tie with the smug satisfaction of a man who believed he had already won. My parents nodded approvingly from the gallery. Mother dabbed at fake tears, while father's jaw remained set in righteous judgment. I stood silently at the defendant's table, letting their lawyer present the fraudulent petition, waiting for the moment that would shatter everything they thought they knew. But why did Judge Margaret Hoffman suddenly freeze mid-sentence? Her pen hovered over the documents. Her eyes widened as she read the company name on the petition. "Counsel, approach the bench." Immediately, both lawyers stepped forward. The judge's voice dropped to a sharp whisper that I could barely hear. "Is this the same Aegis Defense Systems that just secured the €89 million contract from the Ministry of Defense, the one reported in the Financial Gazette last week?" Marcus's lawyer stammered something I couldn't understand. Judge Hoffman looked up. Her eyes met mine with an expression of disbelief mixed with growing fury. "I will need to see extensive documentation before we proceed, because either this petition is the most incompetent I have seen in 30 years on the bench, or someone is attempting to commit a fraud in my courtroom." My brother's confident smile began to crumble. "I founded Aegis Defense Systems 8 years ago in a garage with €3,000 in savings. The Sterling family didn't do things in garages. We did things in prestige. My father, Arthur Sterling, ran a successful chain of luxury car dealerships. My brother, Marcus, was being groomed to take them over. My younger sister, Chloe, had married into old money and spent her days on charity boards and golf club committees. And I, Catherine, the middle child, the disappointment, had thrown away a business degree from a top university to pursue what my father called playing with electronics and cyber junk. He had laughed scornfully when I told him my plans. "That's a job, not a company. Find a real career, Catherine. Work for a bank. Meet someone who fits. You're 24 years old. You know nothing about building a business. You will fail, and then you will come back expecting us to clean up your mess." "I won't fail." "That's what they all say. You will." I had left his office and never asked for his approval again. The first 5 years were brutal. I lived on instant noodles and coffee, worked 20 hours a day, and learned every aspect of the world of defense contracts through painful trial and error. I made mistakes that almost destroyed me. Bad partnerships, missed deadlines, a contract dispute that ate up my minimal savings. My family watched from a distance, waiting for the collapse they had predicted. "Still playing with computers?" Marcus would ask during holidays. His tone dripped with condescension. "Still working on your little hobby," Papa would add. "We're worried about you," Mama would say, which was code for, "We're ashamed of you." After the 3rd year, I stopped attending holiday gatherings. The energy I spent defending myself was better used building my company, and I built it. Aegis Defense Systems developed specialized cybersecurity protocols for military communication technology that could detect and neutralize intrusion attempts in milliseconds. We won our first government contract in the 4th year, our second in the 5th. By the 7th year, we had 47 employees, €12 million in annual revenue, and a reputation as one of the most innovative defense tech startups in the country. The €89 million contract came through 6 weeks ago, a multi-year agreement with the Ministry of Defense to implement our technology across 3 military branches. The deal that would turn Aegis from a successful startup into a major defense contractor. The Financial Gazette ran a lead article. Defense industry journals featured our technology. Investors were suddenly very interested in talking to me. My family had no idea. I had intentionally kept my success a secret and used my married name, Catherine Vance, for all public appearances. The few relatives who had come across news about Aegis Defense Systems didn't connect Catherine Vance, the CEO, with the daughter they had dismissed as a failure. I preferred it that way. I didn't need their approval anymore, but apparently I still had to deal with their interference. The bankruptcy petition arrived 3 weeks after the contract announcement. It was filed by Marcus, who claimed Aegis Defense Systems owed him €2 million from an investment he supposedly made in the 2nd year. The petition claimed I had failed to meet repayment terms, the company was insolvent, and creditors needed court protection to collect their debts. Every word was a lie. Marcus had never invested a single euro in Aegis. He had never shown any interest in the company except for mockery. The documents attached to the petition were forged. Contracts I never signed, loan agreements I never saw, financial reports that had no relation to reality. It was fraud, plain and simple. The kind of fraud that could destroy a company if left unchallenged by tying up assets in legal proceedings, scaring off investors, and jeopardizing government contracts that required financial stability. I called my lawyer immediately. "They're trying to force you into bankruptcy with forged documents," she said after reviewing the petition. "It's incredibly stupid. Any forensic investigation will uncover the fraud within hours, but in the meantime, the filing creates legal complications that could delay the implementation of your contract with the Ministry of Defense." That's the point. Marcus knows something big is happening. He wants to sabotage it. How would he know? My mother's cousin works at a law firm that handles some of our compliance filings. She must have seen something and mentioned it at a family gathering. I sighed. They don't know the scale of what I've built. They just know I have a government contract and decided to interfere. Why would they want to destroy your success? Because my success proves they were wrong about me. Some people can't stand that. The court date was set for a Thursday morning. I arrived early, dressed in the kind of understated professional attire I preferred. Expensive but not flashy, commanding without being ostentatious. My lawyer, Petra Kramer, joined me at the defendant's table with 3 boxes of documents proving the actual financial status of Aegis. Marcus arrived with our parents, staging an entrance designed for maximum impact. He wore a tailored suit I recognized from his dealership's promotional photos. Mama was dressed in somber colors as if attending a funeral. Papa carried himself with the righteous anger of a patriarch whose family honor had been insulted. They ignored me. No look, no nod. I was a problem to be solved, not a family member to be greeted. "Finally facing the consequences," Marcus said loud enough for me to hear as he spoke to his lawyer. "Should have happened years ago." In the gallery sat a few spectators, court regulars, a journalist covering bankruptcy proceedings, and some people waiting for later cases. None of them knew they were about to witness a spectacular implosion. Judge Hoffman entered. I had researched her. 30 years on the bench, a reputation for directness, and zero tolerance for legal misconduct. If anyone would see through Marcus's fraud immediately, it was her. The proceedings began with Marcus's lawyer presenting the petition. He outlined the alleged debt, the supposed default, and the need for court intervention to protect creditors. "Your Honor, the defendant has systematically avoided repaying a substantial family loan, choosing instead to fund an unprofitable venture that has never shown financial viability." Judge Hoffman raised her hand. "The company name is Aegis Defense Systems, based in Berlin." "Yes, Your Honor." She pulled something up on her computer, typed briefly, and then went completely still. That was the moment she called the lawyers to the bench. The whispered conversation lasted several minutes. I watched Marcus's confidence drain away in real time. His lawyer's face had turned pale. My father leaned forward, trying to listen, his expression shifting from smug to concerned. Finally, Judge Hoffman spoke loud enough for everyone. "We will take a 30-minute recess. During this time, I want both parties to prepare comprehensive documentation regarding their positions." Turning to the plaintiff's lawyer, she fixed him with a look that could freeze nitrogen. "I strongly suggest you review every document you have submitted, because if I discover fraudulent filings in my courtroom, the consequences will be severe." The gavel fell. Marcus practically ran to his lawyer's side. "What's going on?" "What did she say?" I used the break to organize my papers. Petra spread the evidence on our table. Real financial statements showing 12 million euros in revenue and healthy cash reserves. The contract with the Ministry of Defense, redacted for security but clearly authentic. Letters from investors confirming interest. Tax returns, audit reports, 8 years of legitimate business records. And then, the forensic analysis of Marcus's petition. Document experts had examined his loan agreements and determined they had been created 6 days ago. Digital metadata exposed the fraud instantly. The signatures were clumsy forgeries. The financial figures were fantasy. 30 minutes later, Judge Hoffman returned. "I have done some preliminary research during the recess," she announced. "Aegis Defense Systems is not a failing company. It appears to be a highly successful defense contractor that has just received one of the largest cybersecurity contracts in the current fiscal year." She looked at Marcus's lawyer. "Would you like to explain why you filed a bankruptcy petition against a company with no obvious financial difficulties?" The lawyer shuffled his papers nervously. "Your Honor, my client provided documentation of a debt. Documentation that, upon even a cursory examination, appears inconsistent with the company's public filings and press coverage." Judge Hoffman turned to me. "Ms. Vance, or should I say Ms. Sterling, since the plaintiff appears to be your brother, would you like to respond to these allegations?" I stood up. "Your Honor, there is no debt. There was no investment. Every document submitted by the plaintiff is fraudulent. My brother has never been involved with Aegis Defense Systems in any way. He filed this petition to sabotage my company because my success embarrasses him." "That is a serious accusation." "I have serious evidence." I nodded to Petra, who began distributing copies of our documents. "These are our actual financial records, prepared by our certified accountants and verified through annual audits. This is the forensic analysis of the documents submitted by the plaintiff, showing they were created less than a week ago using templates that do not match standard business contracts. And this is a timeline of my brother's public statements about my company over the last 8 years, showing a consistent pattern of dismissal and hostility." Marcus jumped up. "This is ridiculous. She's my sister. I have every right to collect debts she owes." "What debts?" I asked calmly. "Name the date of the alleged loan. Name the bank account the money was transferred from. Provide one piece of evidence that doesn't vanish under scrutiny." He couldn't, because there was no evidence. There was only greed and malice disguised as legal filings. Judge Hoffman reviewed the documents for 20 minutes. The courtroom was silent. Marcus's lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. My parents had stopped their theatrical displays, replaced by the dawning realization that this was not going according to plan. Finally, the judge spoke. "I have reviewed the materials provided by both parties. The forensic analysis is compelling. The metadata clearly shows the plaintiff's documents were recently created, not years ago as claimed. The financial records submitted by the defendant show a company with substantial assets and no outstanding debt to the plaintiff." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Sterling, I am dismissing this petition, but this is not the end of your involvement with this court. Filing a fraudulent bankruptcy petition is a serious criminal offense. I am referring this matter to the federal prosecutor's office for investigation into possible perjury and fraud." Marcus's face went white. "Your Honor, there was a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding. You presented forged documents to this court. You claimed debts that do not exist. You attempted to force a successful company into bankruptcy through deceit." She took off her glasses. "Did you know that interfering with the affairs of a Ministry of Defense contractor can trigger additional federal charges? The government does not take kindly to people jeopardizing national security." "National security? It's just my sister's little tech firm." "Your sister's little tech firm provides critical cybersecurity infrastructure for the military. Sabotaging it is not just fraud. It is potentially a matter of national security." She turned to me. "Ms. Vance, I apologize for the court's time being wasted with this frivolous petition. Your company's reputation should not be affected by these proceedings, and I will ensure the record reflects the fraudulent nature of the filing." "Thank you, Your Honor." Case dismissed. The aftermath was chaotic. Court officers approached Marcus and his lawyer regarding the criminal referral. My parents tried to slip out quietly, but I caught my father's eye as he reached the door. His expression was unreadable, maybe shame, maybe anger, maybe just the inability to process how thoroughly his plan had failed. "Mr. and Mrs. Sterling," I kept my voice steady, "I assume you knew about this." Papa turned around. "Catherine, that was Marcus's idea." "You sat in the gallery and nodded while he tried to destroy my company. Don't pretend you weren't part of it." "We thought we were helping." Mama stepped forward. "Helping whom? your son commit crimes, or yourselves feel better because you bet against me for 8 years. We didn't know it would go this far, Mama said. We thought the company was actually in trouble, Marcus said. Marcus said what he wanted to believe, and you believed him because it's easier than admitting you were wrong about me. I gathered my files. The €89 million contract, it's real. The 47 employees who depend on Aegis, they're real. The technology we developed that protects our soldiers, that's real too. You tried to destroy all of it because my success made you uncomfortable. Catherine, I'm done. Whatever happens to Marcus legally is his problem. Whatever you tell yourselves to sleep at night is yours. But do not contact me again. Do not pretend to be my family. Family doesn't try to drive each other into bankruptcy with forged documents. I walked out of the courthouse and didn't look back. The federal investigation moved quickly. Marcus's lawyer, facing his own possible disbarment, cooperated fully. He revealed that Marcus had approached him with a plan, claiming Aegis was a failing company that needed to be put out of its misery before it embarrassed the family further. The lawyer had been negligent, trusting his client's claims without verification. But the actual fraud was Marcus's. Within 6 weeks, charges were filed: bankruptcy, fraud, perjury, and attempted interference with a government contractor. Marcus faced up to 15 years in federal prison. My father used his connections and a significant amount of money to negotiate a plea deal that reduced the sentence to 3 years. Marcus would serve his time in a minimum security facility, lose his position in the family business, and carry a felony conviction for the rest of his life. The car dealership chain survived, but Papa had to step back from daily operations. The reputational damage of having a son convicted of federal fraud made him toxic to the high-profile clients they depended on. Last I heard, he was acting as a consultant while younger managers ran the actual business. Mama sent a letter 6 months after the trial. It was full of justifications, not apologies. We never wanted things to go this far. Family should forgive each other. Surely you can understand our perspective. I didn't reply. Aegis Defense Systems celebrated its 10th anniversary last month. We have grown to 156 employees. Our contracts with the Ministry of Defense have expanded to €340 million over the next 5 years. We opened a second location in Munich and are planning a third in Hamburg. The Financial Gazette ran a follow-up article titled "The Defense Startup That Survived a Family Sabotage Attempt." I gave an interview about the bankruptcy case, carefully worded, focusing on legal lessons instead of family drama. The journalist asked why I believed my brother had done it. Some people can't stand being wrong, I said. They would rather destroy something successful than admit they misjudged it. Do you still have a relationship with your family? I have an excellent relationship with the family I built for myself. My employees, my partners, my husband, the people who believed in me when I had nothing but a garage and an idea. And your biological family. They made their choice. I made mine. The interview ended there. Some questions don't need a longer answer than that. Last week, I received a letter from my sister, Chloe. She had always been on the fringes of the family drama, too focused on her own social climbing to notice mine. But apparently, the scandal had affected her standing in her precious golf club circles. People whispered about her brother, the criminal, and her parents, the accomplices. I know you probably don't want to hear from any of us, she wrote, but I wanted to let you know that I never agreed with how they treated you. I was too cowardly to say anything, but I always thought you'd prove them wrong. It was a half apology, loaded with self-interest. She wanted to distance herself from the family catastrophe to position herself as the sister who had secretly supported me. I wrote back a single sentence. Support given in silence when it would have mattered is just guilt with a different name. But thank you for the letter. I meant it. I didn't forgive her, but I acknowledged the gesture. Growth has to start somewhere. My daughter was born 3 months ago. Her name is Alina, after my grandmother, the only Sterling who ever believed in me. She died before Aegis became what it is, but on her deathbed, she told me she knew I would succeed. I hold Alina in the nursery I built in my home, a home I bought with money I earned. in a neighborhood I chose, far away from the family that tried to destroy me. I tell her stories about resilience and determination, about building things that matter, about the difference between people who build you up and people who try to tear you down. Your grandmother and grandfather, my parents, won't be part of your life, I told her last night, though she is too young to understand. That's not a punishment, it's protection. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see your potential, not people who want you to fail. She blinked at me with those newborn eyes that can't quite focus yet. You're going to do amazing things, Alina. And when you do, I will be your biggest advocate. That's what family means. Not shared blood, but shared belief. I tucked her into her crib and watched her sleep. This tiny person who would never know the family that had disowned her mother. She would know the family her mother had chosen instead. That is enough. That is more than enough. They dragged me into bankruptcy court expecting to finally prove I was the failure they always thought I was. Instead, they proved themselves to be the frauds, literally and figuratively. The judge recognized my company's name because we had built something worth recognizing, protecting, and celebrating. They thought they were erasing an embarrassment. They were trying to destroy an €89 million success story. The courtroom wasn't their victory lap, it was their exposure. And now, while Marcus serves his time and my parents fade into irrelevance, Aegis Defense Systems keeps growing, keeps building, keeps proving that the only thing more powerful than family doubt is personal determination.